So welcome back to Zombie SquadCAST, and this episode I have Gavin Peretti. I got the last name right, Peretti?
Correct. That's it.
Awesome. I'm a genius with names, I guess. So Gavin Peretti and myself, we worked on a number of independent films, indie pilots, independent productions throughout the DMV, especially Baltimore and even Pennsylvania. And our last production was a feature film, and we spent about maybe two and a half weeks on that in Gettysburg, and so that was a hell of a production. And Gavin and I, we go back maybe 10 years, but a project here and there. We're always bouncing around from different things. But yeah, Gavin's an actor and producer. So Gavin, without further ado, I'll let you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you do and what's been going on.
Yeah. So my name's Gavin Peretti, and I am a producer, first assistant director, and actor. Those are kind of my three things that I do in the industry, and they kind of work together well. Obviously producing, if there's a role in there that works perfect, I kind of jump in. A lot of times when I'm assistant directing, if an actor doesn't show up or is not working out or something, they're just like, Gavin, you're in. So
Right.
So it kind of works out, because acting, it's very tough to make a living just in acting.
Right.
You never know. There's a lot of projects going on at a time, or if you're not right for something, and it's not because you're a bad actor, it's just because you might not fit the role. 90% of acting is your look. So you're almost cast when you get in the room or not. It's just kind of the way it is. So when you're producing, it gives you the opportunity to come in on the other side of it, and it also helps when you're on set to know what to do and what not to do, because you're on that other side of it, and you can see the whole production and how the actor fits into the production. A lot of people that are just actors, they don't really understand that the production is not all about them.
Right.
The scheduling is a big factor. How you act on the day, when to be quiet, when to speak up, and that kind of stuff, where to stand, even like knowing like where the light hits your face. You might have to just, you can feel it, but if you can see it from the other side, then you can, be aware of everything. Sure. So, Glenn and I think we first met. I heard of you when I was working on a movie called Heaven Burns with Justin Beckenheimer and Charlie Anderson. And they had worked with you, I think, on another project, and I got hired. You might not have been available for that one or something. And then when the movie came up called Feet of Destiny, which was a soccer film, we shot a little piece of back in, they had some funding issues back in 2010, I think.
2010, I believe.
Yeah. 2010. I was supposed to be the assistant director, and then for scheduling conflicts, I wasn't able to do it. And since I heard people talking about Glenn, I contacted Glenn, and that's where we met. And then Glenn was my second assistant director on Josh Taylor's Prom Date, which we shot the summer of 2018. We shot half of it in Norway. We shot about 3 weeks in Norway and about 2.5 weeks in Gettysburg. So Glenn was my second AD on the United States portion of that. So so that was a fun shoot. A lot of stuff going on there.
That's probably one of the better shoots I've ever been on. And I know the film is still going through some post, the post-production process and the marketing process, but that production to me was a way to see how people are pulling out hacks. I mean, what's interesting about it is half the crew was Norwegian, and the way that the script was just optioned, and however it may be, you guys decide, let's shoot half of this in Norway because of some of the Norwegian crew had some personal issues they had to take care of hands-on back in Norway.
Our director, actually, our director's wife was pregnant, and When we actually greenlit the project, it was like 10 months before we started shooting.
Right.
And so we were set, we got our dates, and we were actually going to shoot the whole thing in Los Angeles. That was actually the original idea. And Andy called me. Andy's the director. He called me about a month later, and he said, well, I've got a little problem. My wife is pregnant, and she's due about 3 weeks before our scheduled start time. And this project had already had a false start before. And with your investors and stuff, you don't get 2 of those. So basically, we were in a situation where we were not able to push back. And so the compromise that Andy made with his wife was, well, we're going to, you have to film some of it here so that you're not away for a month and a half. And that's what we did. We shot all the interior parts of the movie in Norway, in a high school in Norway. Josh Taylor's Prom Date's a high schow comedy along the lines of American Pie.
And it's and it's set in America. It's a U.S. story. Yeah.
It's a United States story. So people are always confused when I tell them we shot it in Norway. But the interior of the high schools, they look very similar. So that wasn't really too big of a deal. And a lot of it takes place in that school. And also the prom, we shot the prom there too. That was inside of a ballroom. So that was able to be shot in Norway. And then we came to the United States, and that's where we filmed all the exteriors and all the house scenes and pretty much everything outside, because, you really notice the difference. The high schools are a lot smaller out there. And also it's just a different style. You'd be able to tell immediately it wasn't the United States. And also the trees and houses look different. So it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to Sweden. My father and stepmother, they expatted and moved to Sweden, indefinitely for the rest of their lives, post-retirement, all that. And I've been there, and there's quite a bit you could get away with, but there is definitely like the design of my dad's house and his neighbor's houses. You could tell that there is definitely a difference in the design, and maybe
the A-frame is like really stark. Like they have like those really like tall, like pointy buildings, and they're everywhere. So like, if you're outside and you're shooting, you're looking around, you're like, where are all these gingerbread houses?
Right. Like
kind of looks like
maybe Old Town, Pennsylvania, maybe like way up north, or bumfuck Wisconsin or something, maybe some.
And we shot it in Gettysburg, and Gettysburg is kind of a little bit bumfuck, but not quite. It's close to stuff. And we picked that because my my production manager and production designer for the U.S. portion lived there. We were going to shoot it in Los Angeles, and we were finding that trying to get a school in L.A., especially right before school started, was like they wanted $6,000 a day. Plus we had to pay for a site rep, and we had to pay for a Film LA rep. So, you're looking at the cost $7,000 a day. The reason I went to Gettysburg first is because there's a big scene in a frat house, and Ed Mantell, that's the production manager's name. He actually lived in what used to be a frat house for Gettysburg College. He's like, well, I'm living here, and the next door is empty. There's nobody there. So I was like, well, that's interesting. So I came over to look at it and was like, that's nice. But it was only 3 days of shooting. So we were thinking about like, that wouldn't be worth it for 3 days. So we went to the school.
And that's where the AD and the producer gears start clicking. Like, okay, it might only be 3 days here, but generally the prices in LA versus Gettysburg, or right outside Gettysburg, PA. Let's see if we can find some hacks at like you were saying, like maybe at the school that we shot at.
I mean, pennies on the dollar compared to the Los Angeles. I mean, maybe 5%. So that was a huge factor. And then also there was a drive-through scene. It's a kind of pivotal scene. And in Los Angeles, again, like the cheapest place I could find wanted about $5,000 for the day. And it was not a place that was $300. And we found it. It was kind of crazy how we found it. We were having a lunch meeting with our costume designer, and this is one place I didn't know where we were going to find. And we just went, we were like, where are we going to eat? In Waynesboro or Emmetsburg? We were like, let's just go up to Waynesboro. It's closer. And we passed by this drive-through mom and pop shop, and we were like, let's go there and check it out. And then we checked it out. It was perfect. It worked great. And pennies on the dollar compared to Los Angeles. You know, the travel was very expensive. You know, it was one of those things where we ate up so much money on flying people to Norway, flying people to Gettysburg, and then flying people back to LA. So, you know, push comes to shove, it probably would have been cheaper if we did do the whole thing in LA, even though that would have been a pain in the ass. But because of the circumstances, this is the way that worked out, and it saved us some money too. It's perfect.
So, you know, in the long run, you spent more money on one thing. Everything else just fell into place. It was just like domino effect, knocking out the whole production. Whereas you save money, or you think you're going to save time in LA, but then everything's clustered, and then, you know, you got to redo a whole day. You didn't make your day 3 days in a row, and that's going to push you back and push you back and push you back.
And the expense of having to have pickup day is, you know, huge. You know, $7,000 pickup day. You know, and that's just for the location, not including everything else. Now you do save money on, like, we wouldn't have had to travel anybody. Actually, we wouldn't have to house anybody. You know, they were just been at home and then drove to set and went home. So you know, there's things like that. You know, I always find with producing, this is kind of getting into what you were saying, is you always want to be penny wise and not pound foolish. A lot of times you think you're saving money on the front end by nickeling and diming things, but you never do. You know, you're going to spend it anyway, and it's going to be more of a pain if you don't plan for it up front. So, you know, I always tell people, when somebody's trying to like nickel and dime something to like make it cheaper, I usually try to avoid it, because it's going to always come back to bite you.
Yeah. Absolutely. There, one story, and I always use this story because it's right on the head, right, hits the nail right on the head with this kind of issue, is that, you know, I had this one live streaming gig, and you know, roughly, let's say my day rate was 500. Well, I was telling the guy, I will do tech scouts or location scouts, whatever you want to call it, the night before. He goes, no, he even admits, I'm a Scrooge with money. I'm not going to do that. And I'm too busy. I've been there before. I know that there's this, you know, audio and video jack that you plug into, I get there day of. There's no audio video jack. Had you paid me $200 extra for the night before, I would have come up with a better plan to pull this off, because there is no multi audio out. There is no house audio out. There is no house video out to live stream this. I would have brought, because I already have it in another kit, I would have brought 2 little adapters. That's all we would have needed. And you would not have lost a $50,000 a year client had you spent $200 extra dollars.
Yep.
So, you know,
it happens all the time.
Exactly.
And the thing is, I'm so huge on pre-production. That's one of the things that, you know, as an assistant director, you're in pre-production, and also as a line producer, that's like your domain. And you have to kind of look at it like painting a house. You know, when you get there to shoot, you're putting the paint on. But the thing is, you have to have sanded it. You have to make sure it's all even. You have to spackle the areas that are loose and do that before you paint. And it's the same thing with movies. If you don't know what you're walking into on the day, there's so many, I could tell you 100 million things that could go wrong. I mean, like literally. And if you're not there trying to, and they will anyway, even if you do this, but at least if you can minimize that situation, it's a lot better. You know, a tech scout is basically when you go, essentially with all the primary people, all the department heads, you go to each location that you're shooting, and you figure out exactly where each scene is going to take place. You look at all the issues that might be there. Is there power? Do you need a generator? Is there like houses nearby where people might be mowing lawns? Are there sound issues? Are you in a flight path?
Right.
You know, all those little things. Is the color of the room okay? You know, you could have some problems where, you know, the color palette's wrong, or the house is painted pink, you know, and you have a character wearing a pink shirt that you've already shot somewhere else. We're wearing a pink shirt. If you walks into that room, oh, she's going to disappear. She's going to be a head floating. Little things like that. I mean, that's just one example of a million things that could happen. And not to mention, you know, I produced a movie we shot on a boat. It's called Desperate Waters, and it's a thriller shot 90% on the Pacific Ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And my goodness, when you're adding the ocean and Mother Nature into the mix, it just causes all kinds of new things. And you have to schedule appropriate, especially when you're at a location like that. When you're making a budget for a movie, you always plan a 10% contingency budget. And when I work with a lot of new time people, every single time they say, well, we're not going to do that. And I said, well, yes, you are.
Yes,
because
you are.
We're going to use it. And then a lot of times they ask me, well, where are we going to use it? You know, you get some people that are, you know, they come from a different business where they allocate each money. And I'm like, well, I could just tell them a bunch of stories of random things that happened. And they said, well, that's not going to happen. I'm like, well, something else will happen that's completely new that I've never experienced,
Mm-hmm.
you've never experienced, and it's going to happen possibly. You've got to have that in place. And I don't think I've ever, that's not true. It's happened 1 or 2 times where we didn't use it, but every other time you do use it and you build it in because you know it's going to happen. And I would say you do the same thing schedule wise, because you don't know what little things are going to happen that are going to make your schedule difficult to make your day. You have to be flexible, especially when you're working with a low budget.
And that's a good idea. And I guess I didn't realize, maybe I did do that, but I never actually specifically thought of it as a 10% contingency on the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So 10%. So if it's a 10-day shoot, add an extra day, maybe even 2
Sure.
as rain days. A 10% time contingency as well as money. Yeah.
Especially, you know, depends on your circumstances too.
Mm-hmm.
If you know you're in a very like your location, let's say, is in like a sound stage, and that's where you are the whole time, you're probably not going to need it as much there. But if you're on location shooting, you know, and you have company moves and you have things like that, where a car breaks down, like the shoot I did in December, the truck broke down, like it just wouldn't start. And we had already started shooting, and this is actually, I think it was our last day of shooting, if I'm not mistaken. No, second to last. But anyway, we were, the truck was parked because it was unloading gear right where we were going to be shooting, and then it was stuck. It was there, and we couldn't move it. And, you know, AAA took like an hour. You know, that's just one circumstance. That wasn't a disaster. We were still able to get everything done. We had a scene that we were going to shoot off site, so we just pivoted the schedule real quick to go shoot that first while they're dealing with that situation. So,
right. I mean, I'm sure you remember on Feet of Destiny, we scheduled all these exteriors for April, and I think you and I were both pleading with the producers and the director, interiors first and exteriors toward the end of April. It's going to fucking rain.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, the guy was a little bit intractable about this. I mean,
intractable.
You know, that's the best word. I mean, we were on the phone in a conference call, and he said, "I prayed to God, and He told me it will not rain."
And it fucking rained.
I think the whole, like, there's like 15 people on the call, and it was silent for like 5 seconds because we realized he was serious. And I was like, well, I believe in God too, and I know that God likes it to rain in April.
God has chosen April showers for May flowers, and He makes that happen every fucking year. I'm 40 years old, and for the last 35 years of my life, I remember April showers for May flowers. It's without a doubt. And even with like, you know, you can be critical
even in LA.
Exactly. You can even be critical of whether there's climate change or not, or global warming or not. Rain might come earlier, maybe at the end of March. It's always going to be in April, and there'll be less rain in May and more flowers in May. It's going to rain in April.
But, you know, there are things like that when you're actually picking your schedule to shoot. Like, if you're shooting an outdoor movie, you might not want to do it in April. I mean, it's just like,
right,
you know, just pick a dry month. or a
Yeah.
dry place to shoot.
Exactly.
Because that was Baltimore in April. That's like, it's going to rain.
Yeah.
You know, LA in April is probably going to rain. You have to put that in your schedule. You know, you have to have what we call a cover set. Now, cover set. Now, you were saying you wanted to shoot the exteriors first. Usually, I don't do that. Actually, in that situation, I would, because it was so much exterior. Yeah. But in a general film, I usually try to put the exteriors first as much as possible. And the reason is, if you have another day or another scenes that are inside, and you're able to pivot your schedule, and that all depends on actor availability and stuff like that. But usually I try to like find a simple day that's an interior day that I can plug in wherever I need to. And that way, if we know it's going to be pouring on Friday, let's say it's Wednesday, and we know, okay, it's pouring on Friday, let's do everything we can to try to get that other scene on Friday and then move that to another day. And that's called a cover set.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Like, and to touch it back, touching back on what you were saying earlier about, you know, you're an actor, but you also are producing, because you might not get a role, but you've still got your opportunity to be on the set. And I kind of did the reverse, where, you know, I went to school and got a bachelor's in production, and later on chose to take on acting roles because of, you know, my military experience, my experience with crew. Finally, you know, broke out of my shell way late, self-confidence and all that stuff, to fill in the schedule to take on acting gigs as maybe detective this, you know, sergeant that, officer this, you know, kind of stuck within that realm of, well, my acting school
That's kind of funny. My acting is starting to get into detective, and like almost like, I think the last year of my acting roles, about half of them have been detectives or cops of some sort, or dirty cops. I got a dirty cop. But yeah, I started out as an actor. I was a child actor when I was about 10. Is basically when I started, and I got cast in a touring production, and you know, I just got bit by the bug, and then I did all the school plays, and then, you know, community theater and some professional theater, and I started jumping into film, you know, just little things here and there in college. And then my junior year of college, I wrote a script that I wanted to film, and I was going to do it really cheap. Like, I had a couple friends that had like a little like handy cam video camera, and that's what I wanted to do. But I gave it to my theater professor at college, and he was like, well, you know, there's this guy that graduated like 5 years ago, and he's, you know, kind of working in the industry. And he showed him the script, and he wanted to film it, but for real. So we ended up putting like 2,500 in each, and like for $5,000. This is back in like 2004. Showing my age card there.
Oh, that's fine. That's around my age. That's around the time I was.
We're about the same. I think you're a couple years older than me.
Just getting out of college, I was.
And we ended up making like a really good film, and like I was bit by the film bug hard, you know, because I was producing and acting, and like the whole process, I like fell in love like immediately. And I won't say I gave up theater, but theater became the back burner for me at that point.
Sure.
And also I started getting into production. You know, I was really interested in the process, and
it's magic.
You know, yeah, it is magic. And for some reason, I have a penchant for logistics. So I kind of fell into the AD position quickly, just because like you either have that brain or you don't. It's not one of those things. There are things you learn, of course, but some people, if you're an AD, like, well, me and Glenn both are ADs. Like, I can meet a person and be like, you cannot be an AD, you know. And it's just, you know, there's nothing against them. It's just like that's just they don't think about all the, like, what are your resources? How do we allocate them? How much time do we have? How much time will it take? This is what it is. You know, if you're the kind of person that shows up, you know, when you say 20 minutes, you show up in 45 minutes. Not an AD.
Yeah. And admittedly, you know, in college, there was this professor, his name is Keith Strandberg. he wrote and produced King of the Kickboxers, No Retreat, No Surrender, 1, 2, 3, American Shaolin. You know, some of those really bad B martial arts movies. He got Van Damme his start in the first No Retreat, No Surrender. He's kind of
That's
known.
funny. Just that you mentioned that, I worked on a movie in December called The Rideshare Killer, and our main one of the main characters was Jean-Claude Van Damme's stunt double.
Okay.
For many years.
I thought you were Jean-Claude Van Damme's stunt double. You look just like him.
Yeah, well, we're actually not that far. We're about the same size.
Yeah. So he, he did.
And the funny thing is, I was his stunt double for that movie. Strangely enough,
you were Van Damme's stunt double's stunt double.
Stunt double, yeah.
Well, yeah, you look like you could be Van Damme's. You look like Van Damme's stunt double, so it works.
And like, shoot, I want to like talk about this, but I can't give away. It gives away too much about the movie.
Yeah.
So the movie I worked on in December is called The Rideshare Killer, and it's a movie about three young ladies that are doing a startup company, and it's kind of like an Uber startup company, and and somebody has like some kind of vendetta against them and basically starts killing people in the rideshare. So it's like a little bit of a horror thriller, not about Uber, but about rideshare, and it's very timely right now. And I don't know, I think we did a good job. We had Eric Roberts.
Awesome.
He was my partner. We were cops. I produced it and acted in it.
Awesome.
So that was pretty fun. And we had Tuesday Night, who is the star of Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. She was our lead female.
Okay.
Yeah, who else do we have in that? We have Victoria DeMar. She's an actress in a whole bunch of horror movies. Tuesday has been in a bunch of stuff. She's great.
You said Victoria. She's a scream
DeMar.
queen. She's like known as like a scream queen.
A scream queen. Yep,
yeah.
She's one of the ladies. And then we had Croy Province, who is more of an up and comer. She's a great actress, and they're all not bad to look at either. So
Nice.
It's going to be a fun movie. It's a lot of twists and turns. It's going to be kind of marketed as horror, but I'll tell you, when you come into it, don't expect too much horror. It's more of a murder mystery, trying to figure out
suspense thriller murder mystery.
Yeah, it's like a giallo film from the 70s, like the old Italian like horror movies, like kind of the precursors to Halloween.
Yep.
There is a killer that you can't see. So we always had to film it because it's a murder mystery. One of the main characters ends up being the killer. That's how those movies go. And I will give you this secret. Even though my character is not the killer, you'd never suspect my character. I played the killer. I actually did all the scenes where you don't see him, and that's because I was the producer. I was there all the time. So, size-wise, it worked out and everything. So it's it was pretty cool. It's a good experience. It was a lot of stunts, a lot of what part of the reason we didn't have so much money. We didn't have a lot of money for a lot of blood effects, so we made the killer as a strangler. So that's a cheap way to not have lots of blood.
Yeah. Awesome. Rideshare. So I guess you spoiled Rideshare Killer. I guess you spoiled it for us.
No, not really.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So like I was saying earlier, back to like
the director of that I actually met in Los Angeles on a movie called The Pinch. He found me on Craigslist. He just put an ad out, and I acted in and assistant directed for him. Real cheap movie back in like 2015 or 16. And he's actually from the area. He's from Annapolis, which is total small world.
What's his name again?
Ashley Scott Myers.
Ashley Scott Myers.
Guy named Ashley. People are always like, "Oh, how's she doing?" I'm like,
Ashley Scott Myers. Well, no, I recognize the name, but I can't put a face to the name. But
he's a writer.
Okay. You actually, so you
That's
actually got
his
a
main, that's where he makes his money, writing mainly.
you actually booked a
Because
gig off of IMDb.
what's that?
You actually booked a gig off of IMDb.
So it's from Craigslist.
Oh, Craigslist. Yeah, okay.
But then he hired me. He actually is the writer of Josh Taylor's Prom Date too. Actually.
Right. Okay.
So that's how the connection goes around. He actually found Andy found me through Ashley, and this is how it works.
I should know the author. I should know the writer of the fucking movie. I was the second AD on.
Well, you never met him. You know,
I never met him. Like I was like a last minute hire, I think. So yeah, and I jumped right in.
And
yeah.
it's a Maryland Connect, another one. Like strangely enough.
And I should freaking know him, but yeah, it's a small world. That's awesome. Yeah, you know, back to what you were saying about like logistics, having like a logistic mind. You know, and what I was saying about the filmmaker Keith Strandberg, who did all those, you know, really low budget B martial arts movies with Van Damme and Billy Blanks. You know, he made Billy Blanks famous, and the Tybo guy was in King of the Kickboxers, and that was.
And also we had Eric Roberts, Best of the Best.
Yep. And so Keith Strandberg taught 2 classes at Towson. One was screenwriting, like, you know, the screenwriting class, and then the second was producing for film, screenwriting for film. And I failed the screenwriting one. I think he passed me with a D. So I did pass, but you know, my work was shit, and I had a lot to learn. But then I took producing with him, and after that, he was like, "This is where you've got it. You might not be able to really pull out all this, that, and the other thing in a script, but you know how to take a script and you know how to make it into a freaking movie." You know,
exactly. You take it, you break it down into the points. Like that's the first thing you do. Like let's say I get hired, somebody has a script, and well, I'm actually doing this right now for a TV series pilot called Woven in Time, something that we plan to shoot in the area around Gettysburg and Frederick.
Awesome.
And basically what they'll do is they'll give me the script, and I take each scene is numbered. So every time you cut to a different location, you number another scene. So what I do is I create a strip for each scene. And in the strip, it's like an Excel spreadsheet, except we use a program called Movie Magic Scheduling. And I make a strip for each scene. And in that strip, I put all the elements. So which actors are needed? What is the scene? Like, what are we doing? What is the location? What props do we need? What special effects do we need? Stunts, vehicles. You put all this stuff in there. What do you need? When you're reading the script, you're looking at it from that aspect. And then you do that for every single scene. And then after that, you take it and you mix and match it into a puzzle into one possible schedule. It's not going to be the schedule that you use, but if you're using this to get funding, the investor wants to see, how are you going to do this? You know, because you're just looking at a script, like that looks like too big. Like what are we doing? But if you put it all into these strips, you can see how we're going to shoot it, what order we could shoot it in. And then afterwards, like when you actually do start shooting it, you have to mix it around because of location availability, actor availability, and any number of factors that go into that. And then after that, then you know how many days you're going to be shooting and how many actors are going to be needed each day, how many crew members. Then you can make a budget. So after that, at that point, then you go through all the requirements for budget. You can use Movie Magic Scheduling. You know, I just use an Excel spreadsheet that I have that has all the elements in there, and I can put all the factors in. You know, if you're using SAG, you have to know all these little rules.
Oh yeah.
That go in. So really, you need to know the SAG rules.
And that's a whole nother ball game. You might have to.
We could have a whole hour about that.
Yeah.
Or more.
And not to just mention, you know, SAG rules, union rules, IATSE rules, DGA, whatever the case. And then you might have shooting outside in Delaware. there's a whole slew of different rules compared to Maryland or DC. You know, everybody knows that shooting in DC could be a complete and utter nightmare. Whereas you go to like some small town in Delaware and they're like, oh, please come. You know, you visit the
They
mayor.
want you to come. They love it. Like
right.
these small towns, when you're going to film, they're excited. Like Gettysburg, they were excited.
Yep.
Oh, movie shooting here. Great. That's awesome. You go to Los Angeles and you do the same thing. They're like, God damn it, a movie shooting here. Fuck. Traffic's going to be terrible. And like, then they just want dollar signs because it's the industry out there. Anybody that owns a restaurant or bar or any open space, there's going to be people asking them to film, and it's going to cost. They got to monetize it because everybody's asking.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of a factor you got to look into when you're deciding where you're going to shoot your movie too, because you do have in Los Angeles, you know, it's very easy in a way because all your people are there and they just go to work like a normal job and go home.
Right.
You know, if you're traveling, like let's say to a little town in Delaware, well, where your actors coming from? Okay, you got to fly them from LA. If you have 20 actors, let's say, for example, got to house them somewhere. You got to feed them. You know, you're responsible for feeding them the whole time, not just for their meal that they get like on set. You have to give them per diem so that they can live and survive. Actors usually don't have just extra money they can spend on food. You have to, you have to take care of them. And some of them, I can make fun of actors because I am one. Some actors are space cadets, and you wonder how they live this long sometimes, as far as like being able to take care of themselves.
I guess I could say the same thing because technically I am a professional actor as well. So yeah, I mean, I've dealt with some space cadets and I've dealt with some, you know, really like got their shit together type actors that are like.
And if you cannot be a space cadet, I mean, I know some people are, but if you can do everything in your power to try to minimize your space cadettedness, do it, because it does affect your casting. It does affect it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And also how you act on set. If somebody comes in and they think it's all about them and they're ego maniac, I'm not going to hire them again. I'm sorry, it's not worth it.
It might affect your next gig.
Yeah.
It might affect the relationship with your casting director or your casting agent or your talent or your agency and your management.
If I got two people and one person I know is a pain in the ass and he's a little bit better than another guy who is not a pain in the ass, I'm going with him. Sorry.
The less talented, more professional. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I've said it a million times. These guys, I'd rather go with local guys that are half the price and love the work and are professional as fuck, as opposed to somebody, and not to shit on LA or New York, but somebody from LA or New York with a way bigger ego than they have talent, wanting more money. It's like, no.
And it's not really about, I mean, it's about money too, of course, but because usually the money stuff is their agents. But you know, it's the attitude on set.
Yeah.
I want somebody with a good attitude. Now, you do have to look at star power and stuff, but there are plenty of actors that think that they have star power. Their name doesn't mean anything as far as
they don't.
release.
Right.
If your IMDb number is not lower than 5,000, your name doesn't mean anything. No offense to you.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. Absolutely.
Even like people you see commonly in TV and stuff, the name doesn't mean anything for distribution. It's got to be, or they've got to have a project that just came out, something big. Hate to shock everybody's ego, but sorry.
Yeah. Clearly you said it. There's an app for that to figure out what someone's star power is now. So.
Yeah, exactly. And it changes. It's constantly changing. Yeah, so you also obviously want somebody that look like, they could have like some big hit coming up. Like there's an actress in Desperate Waters. She was a tiny character, but she was one of the main characters in Birds of Prey. She had a real tiny character. I don't even know if she has a line. She might have 2 lines, but our sales rep asked us to put her name on the poster. We did, but because I don't know what that's going to do necessarily, but
right.
yeah, but that was a fun movie to shoot. And sometimes it was awful. I mean, like just dealing with the waves and the ocean.
Yeah.
You know, unpredictable. Matthew Lawrence was great to work with. He was one of our lead actors, and Sarah Scott, who she played. Well, Matthew Lawrence played was the kid in Mrs. Doubtfire, and Joey Lawrence is his brother. He's one of the Lawrence brothers. And then,
Right. Yeah.
Sarah Scott was in the Soaked in Bleach. She played Courtney Love in that series about Kurt Cobain.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun working with them. Yeah, another Maryland Connection movie. So we were kind of talking about like how we've been impacted with this.
Yeah.
You know, obviously everything is kind of shut down.
Mm-hmm.
I was having a really good year.
Yeah.
It was looking like a great year, actually. Like
Mm-hmm.
March, I started a company with Ed Mantell actually right after Josh Taylor's prom date called Pickwick Entertainment. And we've been doing local commercials, and we've been doing actually like classes, like online classes, which is something that I'll talk about in a second. But also some short films. And our March was one of the best months we had as a company. And our April, we already had planned. It was going to be double what March was.
Yeah.
So like literally we were doubling our revenue every month. And, you know, we got hit because April didn't happen. Our really good April was not.
Yeah.
So we kind of have to pivot our idea. Like, luckily I've got a lot of projects in post-production. And I think that's a good thing right now, because right now all the studios are not filming. So the content that was going to be filmed is not. So I think people are going to be looking for content now, because there's a few months of content that didn't get made. I hope that that's an opportunity for some of these projects, such as Rideshare Killer, Desperate Water, Josh Taylor's Prom Date. And I wanted to also give a shout out to a movie called Being Dead that I worked on, also Maryland Connection. The director's name is John Myers, not related to Ashley Myers. John's from Frederick, Maryland. And we shot a movie called The Guide up in Maine back in 2012. It was my first movie I produced, first line producing credit that I got. You know, it was about a hunter in Maine who loses his mind, and he's taking these guys out on a hunt, and then he starts like losing his mind and was trying to kill them. And so that's basically the story there. But there's a movie called Being Dead, which is based on a book called Being Dead, written by Jim Crace. It's an English book that actually received a lot of great reviews and is very popular in England. And we filmed the movie version back in October of 18. Yeah. And that stars Linus Roach, Elizabeth Marvel, and Catherine Erb. Catherine Erb is Law and Order, Criminal Intent, and Stir of Echoes. She was Kevin Bacon's wife in that.
The wife, okay.
Elizabeth Marvel was in Homeland. She was the president in Homeland for a couple seasons. And she was also in House of Cards.
Okay, yep.
And then Linus Roach was in Vikings. He played King Egbert and the Vikings. And also he was he was Bruce Wayne's father in Batman Begins. He was the guy that's like, what happens when we fall down? So we get back up, that guy.
Yeah.
They were excellent to work with. That was a really good movie, and the story is really good, and it's just beautiful. And that's maybe of everything the one I'm most excited about, as far as just like what we created, you know, that I feel like it's like a work of art instead of just like making a movie. I mean, Josh Taylor's Prom is great. You wouldn't call it a work of art, but you know, it's just a funny movie.
I would.
Yeah. It is, but it's just a different.
To each his own, right?
Different thing.
Yeah.
So be on the lookout for that one. But all these movies are completed or almost completed. You know, Josh Taylor is still in post, but the other three are basically completed.
Yeah.
They're just looking for a home. and that's something that I can work on while we're in this state of affairs. Also, I wanted to touch back on what I was talking about, the classes. I was working on a series of classes for an online law school. I was already working on that. I think now that this has happened, there's going to be a lot of need for this kind of educational content, and it's something I've been researching and studying on my own. Pickwick is going to be working on a series of videos on the presidents. I'm a huge historical fan, and if you know Ed Mantell, he is
without a doubt,
the historical guy. I mean, as far as like props and wardrobe, and Jody Nolan, who's a wardrobe person. She's got any kind for historical films that you need.
She buys old trailers just to store her stuff.
Yep.
Maybe I think I'm exaggerating, but she has
she has most of the old stuff from Catherine Coombs. You know, some of you probably remember her. She passed away in 2011.
Yeah.
But she was the historical movie queen for a while. She had anytime we needed costuming for any historical movie, like when Lincoln came through, or when John Adams, or was it Gods and Generals, like all those movies. That was Ed and Catherine were huge.
Catherine was the one. I remember Catherine and Ed were on feet, and Catherine was the one, if not Ed, and I guess Jody pretty much took over. Kind of like stepped into Catherine's shoes the best she could, and she's killing it. She's killing it herself. Yeah.
And actually, the company is called KC Costumes,
awesome.
in the memory of Catherine Coombs. Yeah. So I think that's cool. It's a little shout out to Jody too.
Yeah,
why
absolutely.
Not? But yeah, absolutely. So what we're doing is we're making a little series of videos, kind of Simon Whistler style, direct to camera address things, and it's just going to be we'll put up. There'll probably be me talking to the camera about, and I'm going to go through each president. We're going to try to get all 45 in. And, I think history is important right now too, just because of the politics that are going on. I think the politics might end up affecting us more than the virus, which is unfortunate. Because when a disaster happens, the sides that are on either side start jockeying for position. How can they get their thing in? How can we use this to our advantage? I'm not saying anything pro or con to either side, because they both do it.
But it's just, there's this extra intensity. There's this extra concern right now, because not only are we quarantined, but we have a fucking election coming up.
I mean, God.
So the shit is double hitting the fan.
The shit was hitting the fan anyway.
Yeah, it was.
And now now somebody done got diarrhea on the fan.
Yep.
That's
poisonous diarrhea.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm not going to get into politics on there. I've got opinions, but I'm not going to. That's not what this is about right here.
No.
And also, my opinions are not alike to anyone's, really.
I
am not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat.
You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome to put them out there if you want. Now, me being in my current situation, being technically in the service in the National Guard, what I do is I'll play devil's advocate. But you by all means, I mean, I
play devil's advocate all day. In fact, when I'm looking at a political position, what I tend to do is I watch both. If I really want to look at it, I watch both newses. I watch, because basically right now we've got two narratives going on, and they're going like separate directions.
I know.
And when I look at that, and I look how adamant people are to each side, I'm like, the thing is, both of them are bullshit, is what the real truth is. Both of them are wrong.
As far as the media spin, yeah, absolutely.
Right. The media spins it into a crazy position. So what I do is I watch both sides. I try to read as much as I can about it, come up with my own decision based on. I do know a lot about history. I'm extremely well read on history, and because I keep an independent perspective, I think my perspective kind of is unique on that, because I don't let my emotion get involved in, like, I hate Trump or I hate Pelosi or whatever. You know, I try not to let that affect my decision, because I think people can't see where Trump is correct because they hate him so much.
Agreed.
And that's not to say I agree with him either. But what I'm saying is, like,
But I agree with you.
People can't have a
it's either all or nothing.
Yeah. And they also can't agree with him ever, because if they do, then, you know,
oh you're a Trump supporter.
Yeah. So the thing is, you got to look at each little instance and see what's happening. You can't let that define you, because then you're letting it define you even more. And you could be I respect a lot of what the Democrats want to do as far as like the climate change and wanting like Medicare for all and wanting that kind of stuff. But what you have to make sure is what you're doing, you want to achieve a result. Mm-hmm. But is what you're doing going to that result? Like, that result is great, but you got to make sure you're doing the right things to get there, because sometimes I think what you're going to do there is not going to achieve the result you want. In fact, may achieve much worse result than what's happening.
Because because a lot of people are stuck in this all or nothing, one side only, all or nothing for that one side, and
that is created by both sides. That's
created by both sides. Absolutely.
You can't see a third side because you have to be all or nothing. That is ridiculous. If you think about it actually as like what really should happen, that is absurd. And you know, it just gets tricky, and of course, like, especially right now. I mean, I remember when George W. got in, and saying that you voted for him or you sided with him, even then, was stigmatizing and a bit, and could be a bit poisonous to your identity. But now, if you was to say that you agree with Trump on one thing, then that's going to end your career. That's going to completely end your career, completely end anything that you have going on. Now, I'm more than happy to admit that the 2016 election, I voted independent, because I did too. I voted for Gary Johnson, but not really because I believed in Gary Johnson. It's because I wanted the third choice.
Yeah,
so I voted for a new choice.
I just had I voted for Jill Stein only because
I could have voted for her. I mean, it didn't matter. That was just
it didn't matter. Exactly. It just mattered. I didn't vote for the two the two
say,
top tiers.
You threw away your vote, or that was a vote for Trump, and that is absurd.
No, I voted for Jill.
Yeah, I voted for a third party because right now it was just that we had those two sides crazy. I voted for just new, even though I knew that wasn't going to win. Of course I knew that, but I wanted my vote to be like another notch on the, like, how about we get another opinion, a third opinion on this.
Right. Well, when they show 40 million for this side and 35 million for this side, but then they show 20 votes for Jill and 35 votes for Gary, that still says something.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
It doesn't say much, but it doesn't say much.
Something different. It's saying something different. And also,
not very loudly, but there is proof there that it was said.
Also in California, you know, my vote, I'm not gonna say my vote didn't matter, but in California, voting like Hillary Clinton was going to win that state anyway. Right. Like, no matter what my vote was, you know, the numbers were so drastically different that it wasn't throwing my vote away. It wasn't. I just wanted my notch in there for somebody else.
Couldn't agree with you more.
But yeah, so I'm just looking at, you know, various different ways of continuing my business, you know, in this crisis. And I think, you know, doing I can YouTube that. I can monetize YouTube. There's ways of doing that. Mm-hmm. I've got a buddy in LA. That's all he does. He's got a nice house with a kid in Studio City, or North Hollywood, and you know, that's what he does. He makes little stupid videos and tries to pick the one that's going to get 1 million hits, and he never knows which one it is. He just films random dumb stuff. Yeah, and like a couple of his things got that like 1 million hits. And, you know, you make enough money. There's money in that if you figure out what's viral, or you can get a series going. That's what I want to do at this, something that somebody will watch the first one and then want to watch all of them.
Right. And you know, you hit the nail, you hit another nail right on the head. And I've had a number of battles, a number of healthy disagreements with a number of colleagues who think it's all about strategy. It's all about like watching the trends and trying to beat the trends. And for me, first and foremost, do what you want to do. You're a big history buff. You're a big history. Maybe you could categorize yourself as a historian because you've done a number of stuff as,
I was going to show you my books that I'm reading. These are my two of them. I've got this is a book called The Fourth President on James Madison, and I've got James Monroe, his biography, and I've got one on George Washington. But I'm just reading a bunch of stuff. James Madison is my hero. He's the writer of the Constitution, actually, one of them. We call him the father of the Constitution. He didn't write all of it, but he had a huge input in it. And also, he, along with Alexander Hamilton, wrote the Federalist Papers, which was there to convince everybody that the Constitution was the way to go. He also did write the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments. He did write those. So, I think that's something that we could use right now. Like looking at people throw around the Constitution all the time in their arguments, but you ever read it? You ever know why it was made and what why those decisions were made the way they were? Why was the Electoral College included? There's reason for it. It's not just like some random thing that people are like, what the hell is that? Get rid of it. Maybe we should get rid of it. I don't know. But the thing is, look into it. Don't just say that because you want your party to win, because that's going to bite you in the ass, because one day it's going to go the shoe's going to be on the other foot, and then you've already screwed it up. These decisions that we make, they're not like little things to be taken lightly. You have, especially constitutional decisions, you have to see every reason why it happened and then go from there.
Of course. I mean, obviously history is very, very important. To know, it's important to know what you're talking about. And a lot of people, going back to just people are stuck on this one side and they won't budge on one tiny little topic. When that agenda it's so important to know the history behind why doing this is important. Maybe someone's other agendas are just so screwed up, but this one thing, there might be some accuracy in this other thing based on.
And you always have to look at where people are trying to use something to a nefarious advantage. Yeah. That has to be looked into when people are making new laws. Mm-hmm. Especially in a time like this, like right now, is the time you got to watch for shady shit from either side, both sides.
A bunch of new laws.
Who is somebody who's trying to use this to further their political agenda when that's maybe not what's the best interest of the country, even though they might dress up that shit to look real nice. Where a lot of people are like, yeah, let's get it. And especially people that are like, I hate Trump, let's get it. Because it's not anti-Trump, but what is that really? And I'm not saying I like Trump. Actually, I'm not a Trump supporter. Right now, I'm espousing mainly that because I'm devil's advocating right now. Mm-hmm. But don't get me started on the other side either. I mean, the president, I think, is somebody that's supposed to their main job, and even Trump said it in a press conference. He's like, my job is a cheerleader. I'm the cheerleader for the country. The president has to inspire confidence in people and be that voice that soothes people when they hear. And Donald Trump is not that.
Well, another point about what the president is, and nowadays, nowadays, but even for the longest, maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, you might know a little bit more, more history behind it. But from what I've seen in the last 4 different presidents, the presidents don't really have that much power. It's more of a face. It's more of a representative. It's
also representative of the times as well.
Sure. But the president can try to put a bunch of stuff into power, he's going to get shot down by House or Congress or Senate or whoever. If it's illegal, it's going to get shot down. If it's immoral, it's going to get shot down. So there's, you take a look at the last 3 presidents, they've only Clinton, George W. and Obama, each of them had 8 years, only really accomplished 1 or 2 things per 8 years.
And presidents usually, I find, end up accomplishing exactly the opposite thing what they stood for. Almost always. It's so strange in history it happened.
And that's
George W. Bush, for small government, Republican. What happened during his administration? The Patriot Act, huge government, 9/11, all the restrictions that came along with that. Pretty much the opposite of what he would have espoused when he was coming into office.
And again, back
that
then,
goes all the way. That goes all the way back to number 1.
Right.
You know what I mean? I could tell you a story about each president, and that's part of what I want to do with this series is to talk about how these things happen, the decisions, the way people were talking during the times of other people, to realize that we're not that unique right now. The situation we're going through. I mean, yes, this is unique as far as COVID. But the political divide is not as unique as people would probably like to think it is, or say that it is when they're talking about it.
Well, and you made a great point, is that most presidents accomplish the opposite of what they may have intended.
Like, I'll go back to Chester A. Arthur. Somebody, who the hell is that, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's the 21st president. He was, I don't know if you know what the spoil system is. It was something in New York where basically it was a shady thing where Boss Tweed and the Customs House of New York would basically, they were in charge of jobs. I mean, they gave out so many jobs. But anyway, they were so powerful. And Chester A. Arthur was actually like the second in charge of that. To Roscoe Conkling. I was trying to remember his name. Roscoe Conkling was in charge of it. And basically, like, he was second in command, but he became vice president. And everybody was like, oh man, this guy, because James Garfield got killed, the 20th president was shot. And then Arthur was president, and everybody was like, oh no, the spoil system is going to go out of control. Like, Conkling and him were best friends. What ended up happening is the opposite. Arthur ended up destroying the spoil system and ruining the power of Conkling and his cronies and of his friend, basically. So, he did the opposite of what would have been expected. That's just one example. You could go through so many more, but.
Well, that's what your show's about. So no spoilers. That's what your show's about. So
exactly.
We need to jump. Example. We need to watch your show to get more of that stuff. So no spoilers. So yeah, man, we a lot we went over. Well, I'm glad you're staying productive. And like I've said a number of times on the show before, is that we're finding hacks. Before I was even before COVID, I was finding hacks on like how to produce this and how to produce that, and make some sort of entertaining, interesting content. And now with this,
we're required to.
Now we're not only required to, but to touch upon what you're saying, I'm pretty much in post-production phase with three things that I have left. I just finished one thing, and there's 3 more. So there was a total of 4 that I had on my plate. I knocked out one. I'm about to finish the second thing. And then, those are 2 series, and then a short film and a feature doc, kind of like a sit-down interview style. And I already shot, the main subject, and it's all about just probably, buying or downloading all the, cutaway stock footage, all the stuff that he's scanned and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's the stuff I'm going to have to do too, but obviously, like, I was going to be in production with that, but now,
now it's just going to be Ken
I'm
Burns
going to
style.
have to wait a little bit. I could sit here with my phone and do it, but I don't really want to do that. I'd rather have like still nicely produced with a, sound guy. But I could do it with 4 or 5 people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a way to do it. I have a green screen right behind this set. I have a green screen, and that's how I was able to produce a couple of things. And, just test, and then I just pulled the
Well, hey,
trigger. And
let's talk. Maybe we should do something. See, this is how it works.
Absolutely.
If you're looking trying to get into the industry, like I'll end with some like advice. It really is, you get jobs from other jobs almost always. From people I know from another job, because if you're going through a bunch of resumes, you're trying to hire a crew, and you see somebody you know and like working with, or somebody like that resume looks good, but I don't know him, who you think is going to get the job?
Right.
So the more you get to know people, and the more that you're just a stand-up person, and because there's a lot of shady people in this industry, and I mean, I know you know it. We run into them. We've talked about some projects where they are, but I'm not going to go into specifics about that. But
Sure.
you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
happens all the time, and there's people that you don't want to work with, and those people are done. So don't be the shitbird.
And that,
basically that's the main advice. And show up on time. Don't be the shitbird.
A lot of,
and work hard.
There's a lot of critics about today's technology now. It's like, I was just listening, to some other people's, content online, other podcasts and stuff. And it's like, I can't get into a bar fight anymore now, because that's going to end up being on YouTube. If my kid in 10 years, if he gets in a fight in school, that's going to end up on YouTube. Him getting his ass kicked, maybe, or him kicking, or him fighting back, but it might get spinned. Comedians
Anything gets spun.
Yeah, comedians can't say shit anymore. But at the same time, it also is a tool, because now it's like, 10, 15 years ago when we were working on projects, how come I never knew about this scum dick of a director, scum dick of a producer, jerk off of an actor? And now there are means for that information to get out there. Don't work with so-and-so. Be careful of working with be careful of working with so-and-so. Be careful. And like,
you don't want that attached to your name.
You don't.
There's no reason for it. I mean, just, if you have a problem, that there's also with the modern time, there's a lot of outlets to get over it.
Right.
If any kind of issue you have, addictions, or you have, mental issues, anything like that, there's so many resources now if you look for them. They might be too costly, and that's another thing, talking about in politics, like how to make all this stuff accessible to everybody. And I think the one thing that this virus will do is it will make there will be some kind of healthcare revolution because of it, I'm sure. I mean, it's already happening. There's plenty of ventilators.
Yeah.
Anything else happens in the future. But it's a wake-up call to everybody to see that something needs to be done. It's just figuring out how to do it the right way without making it worse.
Absolutely.
Or making another problem. Because there's so many people right now that I know. I have one casualty of COVID that I know of, and he didn't have anything to do with the virus. He committed suicide. He was schizophrenic, and he was under control. He actually, for 3 years, he was pretty much in remission. But this thing, it just, the uncertainty, and then if you already have, it's enough to make a sane person crazy, let alone, if you already have an issue. We don't want to help one problem and then end up creating a much worse problem.
Right.
I'm not saying that our actions so far have done that. I'm just saying that we need to continually look at what is the balance here. I'm not even giving an answer. I'm just saying we need to look into it and come to the consensus together. And instead of all this infighting between everybody, we need to find ways to come together and agree on some things. One thing that I'm interested in doing is a debate show as well, where two people with strong opinions on either side have a debate, except for they must research the other side and they must debate each other, taking the opposite opinion of themselves without sarcasm.
Right. That's wow. Okay. So if you were Democrat and I was Republican, I have to if you were Democrat and I was Republican, I have to debate you as a Democrat, and you're going to come back at me as a Republican.
Correct.
Love that. Love that. Okay. Okay. That's unique. That's different, and that might.
And the key is without sarcasm. Now, obviously, at the end of that, we'll give a chance for people to say what they really think, because maybe the thing is, that's a way to get informed as well, because people are not informed. This part, like, I see random crap on Facebook all the time with some people posting. I'm like, the hell are they talking about? Like, it's
I don't think that's accurate. Yeah.
And both sides, like, very strong on both sides.
And I'll admit that there are quite a few things I'm not factually educated or factually familiar with, but there are a lot of those posts or news articles, even like big news affiliate articles, that as someone with just basic common sense, I can look at and see, I don't think that's accurate. I think there's a common sense thing. And
I fall into it too. I mean, I definitely have. I mean, when this crisis started, I at first was pretty adamant, against taking too strong measures. And I posted stuff, and I was, ranting about it, for, a little bit. And it's really because I was mad one day. and I posted something, but it created a huge discussion board. And usually I restrict politics from my Facebook page. And then, as I realized like how bad this was. But then at the same time, as this continues, I'm like, how bad was it though? What I said, because we got to find the balance. Obviously we can't keep the economy shut down forever. That's ludicrous.
Yeah.
But we also have to be safe. We also have to find a way to somehow get back to, it's not going to be normalcy, because it probably never will exactly, but get back to a cohesive, country where we can continue progression and not have and minimize the economic collapse. I don't want to call it a collapse, but it's definitely a foobar.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, without a doubt, but I've said it 1,000 times before. I try to look at the bright side. I don't let a cluttered desk stand in my way. I say, here's an opportunity for me to clean it. And if I clean this cluttered desk, I might even find a better way to make this desk even more productive, more.
And you might find $10 somewhere too.
Exactly.
Like you didn't know you had.
Exactly. And I've used this story before, and this is a real simple story. National Guard. So we have 1 week in a month drill, 2-week training in the summer. So originally on the schedule, it was a 3-day drill, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so, a week before drill, they said, we're meeting at this one place for a PT test. Okay. So on Friday morning, I get there, there's nobody there. I start sending out texts. Where is everybody? I'm here for the PT test. Oh shit, man. Last week the schedule was changed to just Saturday and Sunday. It's not no more Friday. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So everyone's texting me apologizing. I'm like, hey, it's all good, man. I got a day off. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna go home and sleep in. And even better, there was no PT test. And I was a little concerned. I'm in pretty good shape. Well, even maybe not now because of this whole COVID with a baby and all I'm doing is drinking and editing. But then I was in pretty good shape, but always it's just like, oh man, a PT test. I hope I can do better than last time. The bright side was I got a whole day off. There was no PT test for that drill. And then originally the drill was supposed to be out of town. Drill was just in DC. So I'm not going to spend the whole weekend away from my wife. I'm just coming home every night. It's like, look at the bright side, because people would have been pissed off, man, what the hell? Why aren't you guys freaking texting me and keeping me up to date? I'm just like, oh, cool, man. I'm gonna go home and chill. I'm gonna go and sleep in, and it's just look at the bright side, because for me, touching back on, it's unfortunate that you know someone that took their own life, and I know someone that took their own life during this time. I worked with this person on a lot of AV gigs, events, live streaming, concerts, because I do a lot of that too. And ever since the COVID, there is no gigs. And another buddy of mine said he got a text from him saying, gigs, I'm never happier than when I'm on a gig. And I'm stuck in my house, and being stuck in my house, I'm stuck in my head. And he took his own life because of it.
So it's a permanent solution for a temporary problem.
Yeah, but
it's hard if you're in a tunnel vision.
And that is in big print. That is in big print in the military on suicide prevention posters. Permanent solution for a temporary problem. This is going to be two fucking months, 3 months, 4 months. What if it's
I might have produced a video.
What if the quarantine is a fucking year? So be it. But
people get a year in jail and they come out and they're fine.
Yeah. I mean, weaker people have done more. It's a temporary solution. It's a permanent solution for a temporary problem. But I mean, I'm in a perfect situation where I have, a number of projects that are in post that are keeping me occupied. I got a kid. Me and the wife are hands-on with our kid 24/7. So this kid's going to have a great upbringing because we read to him, we play with him. We're doing STEAM, we're doing Tummy Time. I'm showing him Batman the animated series at seven weeks old. Man, I'm getting this kid started early but I mean, I'm kind of in a lucky situation. But yeah, it's.
I mean, I guess I'm in a situation too, being in post with a lot of things and in pre-production. I mean, a lot of those shoots that I was going to be doing in April, some of them were probably permanently canceled because I was doing commercials. But some of them are still going to go. I know that they are. So one of them is actually a suicide prevention kind of movie. It's a short film about PTSD. About a guy coming back from the war and dealing with PTSD.
Yeah.
So I think it's an important subject. And during this time, people are sheltered in, and, if you already have a mental illness where your brain is not processing or thinking about something right, this will probably affect it negatively. But, it's one of those things. Try to keep a positive attitude. Laughing is the best medicine, no joke.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I'll move on to my next point, which is there a, because you sound like you want to keep a positive, laughing, happy, humorous mindset. Is there a film or a series that you're binge watching, or a series of films, or you obviously have your books, but is there? So you touched upon those 3 books that you've been reading, but so is there a film or a series that you've been binge watching?
Well, I've been catching up on a lot of the movies that I missed, because a lot of times when I'm really busy, I miss out on all the blockbusters that are out. I don't get to go to the theaters or anything. So I watched Birds of Prey, 1917, Joker. I've been catching up on that stuff, and I've rewatched a little bit of Game of Thrones too, which I'm almost ashamed to admit that, because I spent a lot of time binge watching that already. But just little things. I'm actually trying not to watch TV too much.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to binge and just sit there and spend all my days. I'm also watching a lot of documentaries that are along the lines of what I'm trying to do, to get ideas and to see what to do and what not to do. And also I'm being entertained by it at the same time. So it's one of those things where my entertainment is also my work, which I love. I love the fact that is my job. My job is being on set.
Whenever, absolutely. When I'm watching something, I am also kind of studying.
Yeah, exactly.
It is kind of homework, but homework that you love to do, really. So
it also when I'm on set, I don't feel like I'm working. If you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life.
You don't work a day in your life. Absolutely.
So and it's hard to find that. I know everybody's not in that position, and you know, I feel blessed that I'm in that position. At least I'm not wealthy by any stretch of the means, not at all. You know, I'm struggle financially, but you know, it's you know, luckily the government is doing some bailout stuff in my company. Like, you know, it looks like it's going to keep us afloat.
Yeah.
I will have, our website is not completed yet. That's another thing I'm working on, because we're a very new company. So www.pickwickentertainment.com will be up probably in a week or so. So be looking out for that.
By the time this episode does come out. So yeah, link in the description below, and yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I actually watched The Gentleman by Guy Ritchie's latest one with Matthew McConaughey, Colin Farrell.
Oh, nice.
Hugh Grant. I mean, a shitload of people in this movie. It's dope. Like Guy Ritchie's going back to like his Snatch, Lock, Stock, and Snatch type of flavor. You know, Sherlock Holmes was good, and you know, some of his other feats were pretty good, but yeah, The Gentleman is definitely like, you know, back to some of his, like, you know, gutter of London type of
Nice
crime capers. So The Gentleman is definitely worth a watch, and it's funny, like like you were saying, to my schedule of watching stuff versus, you know, editing stuff, because I try not to just sit there and binge watch on my own, but you know, during the day, if I've got the kid alone, I'm watching Legion on FX. I'm catching up with that. If I'm in the, but at night, I might bring the kid down to the lounge while I'm editing, and I'll watch movies while I'm feeding him. Or me and the wife are watching either Schitt's Creek or Little Fires Everywhere, you know, on the streaming. And so I have like my specific schedule of doing it. If I'm forced to not edit, then I'm going to be watching something for entertainment / homework. But I don't know.
I do find it's hard to focus.
Yeah.
For some reason during this time, like, you know, I wish I was more productive, but I just think like the atmosphere that's around the tight tension, like anything I have to sit down and like put all my attention on, like my mind tends to drift around a lot more than it usually does.
Absolutely.
And that's something to notice. You know, I know that that's probably going to get better as we get more used to the new normal. But you know, it's just is what it is.
It is what it is right now, and all we can do is just stay positive, stay productive, persevere, and you as a historian knows that this country, if not the world, if not planet Earth, definitely the US of A has always persevered. 9/11, Spanish flu, the Great Depression, 2 world wars, Vietnam, Agent Orange.
We always persevere as long as we don't forget who we are and what we stand for.
Right. I mean,
and no matter what changes we make in politics, let's not forget that, because that's, you know, we don't want to go down a road that is to losing ourselves. Yeah. And we could be in danger of doing that. We're in danger of doing that at all times and in all periods. And, you know, like it or not, the U.S. has usually had the right person at the right time at the helm. I won't say that 100%, but usually at the end of the day, it turned out that things worked out because of that. I hope that's true now. You know, we'll see. I mean, you know, that's the one thing about that's why history is so important. You have to see where you came from to see where you're going,
or to decide, or to decide and evolve where you're going.
But also just to see what that trajectory is. Like if you need to adjust it, yeah, or adjust it that way, yeah.
If you
don't know where you came from, you're just at this point and you're just making a decision. You don't want to go here and just go like that and make a right turn most of the time. You know, you got to see what the consequences of your actions and of your decisions are. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You pretty much told us already, but if you want to recap anyway, what would you say your next agenda is for, say, the next month or two? Your next agenda, goals, plans. I mean, you already told us, you know, you got that you got that history series, and if
Yeah,
recap,
so
delve into
so
it
that's
more.
gonna be so the history series. I haven't like decided the name of it yet or anything like that, but that's gonna be like probably gonna take a lot of my thought process. But at the same time is post production. I'm working on selling Desperate Waters right now, the Matthew Lawrence, Sarah Scott movie, and a Jeffrey Drew's movie. Also, we're just getting our final deliverables into them for so that they can get it to distributors, our sales agent. Rideshare Killer is being edited as we speak. That's going to be a quick turnover movie. We shot that in December, but
Beautiful.
I know Ashley Myers, we work quick. That one's going to turn over fast. Probably by the fall they'll be ready for something. I don't we were planning on some festivals, like fall festivals. I don't know what the future brings for that, as far as film festivals, when that's coming back. Either way, that's probably one that'll get distribution some way, pretty quickly. And Being Dead, we were supposed to have our LA premiere on March 22nd.
Yep.
Obviously that didn't happen. We were premiering at the Method Fest. It was going to be pretty exciting, but they say it's not canceled, it's postponed, but we'll find a way to get it out there somehow. And then obviously Josh Taylor's prom date. I can link you guys to some sites of trailers for some of those. I think only Desperate Waters has a trailer we're allowed to show. I think Being Dead has a trailer. I don't think I'm allowed to show that one yet. The distributor didn't want us to. So I'll send you that and links to my website and maybe some clips. I have some Rideshare Killer clips that I can show too.
Links below in the description. And Gavin, if you want, you already did the whole links and the socials thing. So all of Gavin's socials, his company's socials, links are in the description below.
And my
Gavin,
social security number too.
Yeah, that's
my address. Although if you steal my identity, you're going to end up owing a lot of money.
So hey, help him out.
You can take it, man. You can take it.
Take that debt. So Gavin, if you want to close this out with one point, I kind of know where your head's at. I know, but if you want to close this out with one point, one bit of advice for our viewers, what would that be?
My one point is that this is going to be over. It feels like this is like a momentous occasion, and it is, but it's going to change. The one thing that we always know is that something different is around the corner, whether it's good or bad or otherwise, and try to make lemonade out of the lemons. That there's stuff that's going on right now that seems really terrible. Yeah, obviously people dying, that's awful. People, with depression and the economy going down, but see where we're going, try to be on the winning side at the end, and meaning see what needs are needed and try to fill those needs. Be of service to people. This is a time where we should be calling people we haven't talked to in a long time.
Absolutely.
Just make that phone call. You never know when that one phone call is going to save somebody's life or change their attitude about something. Yeah. And also, this is your time to reconnect to people.
And we have the technology nowadays for that.
Yeah.
To video chat into like Zoom happy hours, Zoom. I had Zoom Easter and Zoom Passover, and the wife does Zoom happy hours all the time. So we have the technology to stay connected.
Yeah, and just be of service to somebody.
Be of service.
It's a simple like idea, but it's going to make you feel better in the end. You're doing it for somebody else, but in the end, you're going to feel better about yourself.
Absolutely. Well, you heard it here. Gavin Peretti, can't thank you enough for joining me. This was a blast of an episode. Like I said, his links, his socials, all of his handles in the description below. Gavin, I can't wait to work with you again on the next thing, however we make that happen, or if we just got to hurry up and wait. But viewers out there,
we're used to hurry up and wait.
Of course. Viewers out there, subscribe, like, share, comment, thumbs up, please. If not, thumbs down, I guess. And ring that bell for notifications and check us out next time.